Howdy everyone and welcome back. With myself I have this notebook which I have bought back in 2022 December and I never got the time to test it properly. So this notebook cost me approximately 900 USD and it is the Lenovo Ideapad 3 15i-HU6 with a 15-inch screen. It is basically an entry-level gaming laptop, so keep that in mind as we move forward. Specs wise, it has an i5 11320H Tiger Lake CPU with 4 cores and 8 threads with a maximum boost clock of 4.5 GHz and a 35 watt TDP. It was built with the 10 nanometer process. It has 16 gigs of DDR3 clocked at 3200 with one extra slot to upgrade. It has a 3050 4GB dedicated GPU with a 15.6 inch Full HD IPS display and a refresh rate of 60 Hz. For storage, it has 512GB M.2 SSD, which is unfortunately only enough for a couple of games to store. It has a webcam, which is no surprise with most of the notebooks, but it also has a shutter that you can physically block its view if you think someone is spying on you. The notebook is equipped with a 45 watt hour battery, but I always use it from the wall with the included 135 watt power brick. The keyboard is backlit, which is a nice addition. Connectivity wise, it has one Ethernet, one HDMI and one USB 3.2 Type-C connector on the left side and 2 times 3.2 Type-A and an audio in and out port on the right hand side. I found this a little bit uncomfortable since I use the wired mouse for gaming and the wire is always in the way. So I assume nobody would really consider this laptop as a productivity option, but just in case I have run a Cinebench R20 test for latent comparison's sake. And the CPU achieved 2646 points in the multi-core test. And right after this, let's step into the gaming side of things, since that was the original intention when I bought this notebook. Because of the 512GB storage limitations, I was only able to do a couple of tests, and because of the specs, I have tried to run easy to run and esports titles. The first game tested was GTA 5, which is about 10 years old now, but still a lot of people love it and play it every single day. With mostly high settings, the laptop was averaging 71 FPS with the 1% low figure being 53 FPS. A very playable experience in my opinion. The second game tested was 2023's new release in the form of Counter-Strike 2. I left all the settings on high. If you would like to get better results, you can change the settings for lower. The average was still 62 FPS, but the 1% low figure only got 32, which isn't that bad considering this was a free-for-all online deathmatch, which is mostly 10 plus people running around and shooting non-stop. For the third game, I've chosen PUBG, which is still a lot of people's favorite. With the high settings on Erangel map, the game averaged 81 FPS with a 1% low of 41. But please keep in mind, if you play different maps and or are stuck in the blue zone, your FPS can drop even with around 20. But still, I would call this a very much playable experience. For the next game, I chose Dota 2, which I've never played before. I've maxed out all the settings and the results are pretty good with an average of 78 FPS and the 1% low figure being 55. To be honest, mostly I didn't know what I was doing, but the laptop did its job perfectly fine. And the last but not least, I have tried Fortnite, which was more problematic than I thought. I haven't played this game in a while, so it was almost like a brand new game for me. First, I had massive problems with the performance. I set the graphics to epic preset and the game didn't even wanted to load correctly. Then I turned down the settings for the medium preset and the game was still loading very badly. But after the start, it was getting an average of 53 FPS with a 1% low of 29. After this, I went back and I turned down the settings for the low preset, which helped a lot, and the average went up to 103 FPS with a 1% low of 57. But this came with a very huge sacrifice on the quality side. After testing a bit more, I realized the CPU was a huge bottleneck in Fortnite, and it maxed out at 100% a lot of time, and its temperatures went even above 90 degrees Celsius. And this is one of my issues with the gaming notebooks, that the cooling is very far from optimal. So all in all, my conclusions are very simple with this one. If you would like to have a cheap entry-level gaming laptop, this is a good choice, but for anything more than that, you might be better off with a low-end PC. It can play some of esports titles, casual games, but when it comes to more heavy stuff, you are very much limited by the storage and even more so with the CPU power. At the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe, and do all that good stuff, and see you around in the next video.